Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're wading into some really complex territory. We're looking at the links between autism spectrum disorder, our gut health, specifically microbes and tryptophan, and, well, environmental factors like heavy metals and vaccines.
It's definitely a sensitive area and one where the science is, shall we say, evolving rapidly.
Exactly. So our aim here is to explore the science responsibly. We want to give you a clear picture of what we think we know right now about, tryptophan's role, this gut-brain connection, and those potential environmental links.
And we're drawing on findings from neurodevelopment, gut-brain axis research, molecular microbiology, immune signaling. It's quite interdisciplinary.
Right. Setting the stage for a deep dive into the current research, acknowledging it's, well, complicated.
Very much so. The picture keeps getting refined.
Okay, let's jump straight in. Tryptophan. We might think turkey, sleepiness.
Yeah.
But autism? Why is it relevant here?
Right. So tryptophan is an essential amino acid. Essential meaning our bodies can't make it. We have to get it from food. Think things like poultry, eggs, legumes, dairy.
Okay, got it.
And once we eat it, it gets converted into really important neuroactive compounds. Serotonin, the big one, affects mood. Melatonin, too, for sleep. But here's the interesting part for our discussion. Gut bacteria play a huge role in how that conversion happens.
So it's not just us digesting. Our gut microbes are actually, directing traffic for brain chemicals.
Precisely. The microbiome can sort of push tryptophan towards making those helpful neurotransmitters, or it can shunt it down other paths. Some of those affect our immune system, for example. So how our gut microbes handle tryptophan, that resulting balance of metabolites. It seems pretty critical for healthy brain function.
And the thinking is this balance might be skewed in some individuals with autism.
There's growing evidence suggesting that, yes, some studies indicate that certain gut bacteria profiles seen in children with autism metabolize tryptophan differently. They might produce compounds that are potentially pro-inflammatory, or maybe even neurotoxic, specific types of indoles, for instance.
Wow. And these compounds, they don't just stay in the gut.
That's the concern. They might be able to cross the gut barrier, which isn't always perfectly sealed. From there, they could interact with the immune system systemically, and there's research looking into whether they might even directly affect brain cells.
That implies a really direct highway from the gut to the brain. This whole gut-brain axis idea, how solid is the evidence connecting it specifically to autism?
It's become a major focus, and the evidence is certainly accumulating. You see studies comparing microbial metabolites, the chemicals bacteria produce in stool samples, and they often find significant differences between children with and without autism.
Differences in what kinds of chemicals?
Things related to neurotransmitter regulation, for example, compounds that influence GABA, glutamate, dopamine, all really key players in how brain cells talk to each other.
So it's not just tryptophan metabolism that's different, it's a broader pattern.
Exactly. It often looks like a wider shift in the gut ecosystem. Many children with autism tend to show less diversity in their gut microbes. And functional differences, too, like maybe fewer of the types of bacteria that normally help keep the immune system in check or maintain the integrity of the gut lining.
And if that gut lining isn't as strong, that has knock-on effects.
Absolutely. A leakier gut barrier, as it's sometimes called, could allow inflammatory molecules produced in the gut easier passage into the bloodstream and potentially across the blood-brain barrier. This idea of heightened neuroinflammation is something researchers are really digging into as a potential factor influencing neurodevelopment.
It's incredibly intricate, but I suppose understanding these pathways might open up new avenues for support. Are there treatments actually targeting these gut microbes?
People are definitely exploring this. There are experimental approaches looking at, probiotic-specific beneficial bacteria. Also, dietary changes aimed at shifting the microbiome balance, and even fecal microbiota transplantation, FMT.
FMT, that sounds pretty advanced. Transferring gut bacteria from a healthy person.
Essentially, yes. It's still largely experimental, especially for autism, but there has been some promising early work. For instance, one notable study found that children with autism who received FMT showed long-term improvements. Not just in their GI symptoms, which are common.
But also behaviorally.
Yes, but also in some core autism behavioral characteristics. It was quite striking because it suggested that changing the gut environment could lead to observable neurological changes.
That's fascinating. Really highlights that two-way street between the gut and brain, a potential target.
It really underscores that possibility, yes. Now, it's crucial to say this isn't presented as a cure, not by any means. We need much more research to figure out who might benefit, long-term effects, all of that.
Of course.
But the fact that modifying the gut led to neurological shifts, that's significant. It makes that gut-brain communication pathway look like a very real therapeutic possibility to explore further.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Another area that gets a lot of attention is environmental factors, specifically heavy metals. What's the science say there?
Right, this is definitely something you hear concerns about. And there are studies. Some have found elevated levels of certain heavy metals, lead, mercury, aluminum, cadmium, in some children with autism compared to neurotypical kids. We know these metals aren't benign. They can be neurotoxic. They can interfere with how nerves communicate, how our cells produce energy in the mitochondria, even how genes are expressed.
So there's a biologically plausible way they could have an impact.
Yes, the potential mechanisms are there, but, this is a big but, how well an individual's body deals with these metals, how efficiently it detoxifies and gets rid of them, can vary a lot. Genetics or other metabolic factors might mean some children hold on to these metals more, potentially making them more vulnerable to effects.
So the levels might be higher, but why is the key question?
Precisely. Are the elevated metals contributing to causing autism? Or are they maybe a result of underlying biological differences in children with autism that affect how they handle these metals? That correlation versus causation question is absolutely critical here. We need more research specifically designed to tease that apart before drawing firm conclusions.
A really vital distinction. Okay, now, we need to touch on a topic that's, well, very sensitive and has generated a lot of debate. Vaccines. What does the current scientific understanding suggest about any links to autism?
Yes, this requires careful handling. Historically, a lot of concern focused on thimerosal, which is a mercury-based preservative that used to be in some vaccines. It's really important for people to know that thimerosal was removed or drastically reduced from most childhood vaccines many years ago now.
Right.
And despite that removal, autism diagnoses have continued to increase. That observation itself is significant.
So the trend didn't reverse when thimerosal was taken out?
Correct. Which strongly suggests other factors must be involved. Maybe other environmental influences. Maybe changes in how autism is diagnosed, leading to more identification, or these gut immune system interactions we've been discussing, or likely a combination.
What about just the sheer number of vaccines kids get now compared to, say, a few decades ago? Is that volume being looked at?
That's part of the ongoing conversation, yes. The current schedule does involve more vaccines, often given earlier in life during really critical windows for immune system and brain development. So some researchers are asking whether this increased sort of cumulative exposure to all vaccine components, including things like aluminum adjuvants, which are added to boost the immune response, could potentially pose challenges for certain vulnerable subgroups of children.
It really sounds like the picture emerging is far from simple, not one single cause.
That's definitely the way the science is pointing. Autism is increasingly viewed as multifactorial, likely a complex interplay of genetic predispositions interacting with various environmental factors, immune system dysregulation, and these gut microbiome imbalances we've talked about. The science is absolutely not settled. There's a clear need for more nuanced research, especially looking at things like immune system activation early in life, gut permeability, that leaky gut idea, and neuroinflammation. These seem to be recurring themes, potentially linking genetics, environment, and autism development.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've covered a lot. The gut-brain connection via microbes and tryptophan, potential roles for heavy metals, the complexities around vaccines. What are the main takeaways for people listening?
I think a key thing is to view the gut microbiome not just as individual bugs, but as a whole system, an ecosystem. And the chemicals it produces, like those from tryptophan, are like messages. They're part of this constant conversation between the gut and the brain. We need to keep studying how diet, antibiotics, environmental exposures, how all that shapes the system and its messages.
And on the environmental side, it seems crucial to keep investigating all potential contributors without jumping to conclusions.
Absolutely. That includes continuing to carefully study heavy metals, vaccine components, and other environmental factors, especially thinking about how they might interact with an individual's genetic background. The goal isn't about blame. It's about building a really thorough understanding. That's what will ultimately lead to better prevention and support strategies.
It highlights the need for ongoing, rigorous science and, frankly, respectful conversation about all this.
Indeed, it's vital. We need continuous evidence-based discussion involving researchers, clinicians, families, everyone invested in understanding and supporting individuals with autism.
And for you listening, we hope this encourages you to stay curious, to look at information critically, and maybe just reflect on that incredible constant dialogue happening between your own biology and the world around you. Thinking about how early life experiences and exposures might shape long-term health and development. It's a profoundly important area. Join us next time for another deep dive.